Hi there guys, and welcome back to SitRep Gaming. In today's video I'd like to discuss whether or not the suppressor in Call of Duty Infinite Warfare is too strong. Now, the strength of a suppressor in any given Call of Duty title is going to have a significant impact on the way that the game plays. So if you're interested in learning more about this topic, then please leave a like rating on this video. Now, the gameplay that you're seeing is from Infinite Warfare. It's a TDM on the map Turista, and I decided to use the NV4 with a suppressor because I feel that this combination in particular highlights a lot of the issues which I'm going to go on and talk about. But anyway, let's get straight into the topic of conversation. So, the suppressor in Infinite Warfare, is it too strong? Now, as I'm sure many of you will have noticed in the game's lifespan thus far, the suppressor is one of the most prominently used attachments. It's incredibly popular and a great majority of people use it. Now, whilst this isn't exclusive to Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, of course the suppressor is always a popular attachment in Call of Duty games, I can't help but feel that its use in Infinite Warfare is greater than we've ever seen it before. Now, before we go into the reasons behind this in too much detail, I just want to take a moment to go back to Black Ops 3 and get a little bit of perspective about how the suppressor range reductions were implemented in that game in comparison to Infinite Warfare, so we can get a feel for the different ways which developers can approach their implementation of the suppressor. Now, I'm going to give you the hard numbers for the suppressor range reductions for the three main weapon classes, so SMGs, ARs and LMGs. So starting with Black Ops 3, SMGs gave you a 30% range reduction when using a suppressor, ARs gave you a 50% range reduction, and LMGs gave you an 85% range reduction. So straight away you will probably be thinking that these are some very, very high numbers, particularly in comparison to Call of Duty games which preceded it. And we also have a staggered suppressor range reduction system whereby we move through the weapon classes and we see an increase in the range reduction we receive when using a suppressor. So if we hop back to Infinite Warfare, we see that SMGs in Infinite Warfare get a 25% range reduction when using a suppressor. The ARs also get a 25% range reduction, and you guessed it, the LMGs also get a 25% range reduction. Now, when we look at these two sets of data in isolation, it's difficult to simply pick one out and say that's a better approach to the other one. The range reduction which a suppressor gives in a game is dictated as being appropriate by the implementation of two other aspects of the game and how those two elements work in conjunction. And those two elements are the base damage ranges that the weapons have and the size of the maps in the multiplayer. So let's take Infinite Warfare, and first up I'm going to give you the base damage ranges for three weapons in the game. So first of all, the raw LMG. This gun has a base 3-shot kill range of, I believe, 56 meters. We'll also take the Type 2, one of the ARs, which has a base 5-shot kill range of 52 meters, I believe. And finally we'll take the NV4, another AR, which has a base 4-shot kill range of 38 meters. Now, when we take those base damage ranges and we consider the size of the maps in Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, which, as many of us know, are very small, a lot of them are quite tight, close quarters maps, certainly more than we've seen in other Call of Duty titles, I can tell you right away that the vast majority of gunfights you have in Infinite Warfare when using those three weapons will comfortably fall into the base damage ranges. So when we consider that a 25% range reduction is applied to any weapon class when using a suppressor, this suddenly becomes, shall we say, a very, very minor penalty considering the size of the maps. Particularly if you take the raw LMG, yes, you might have a perhaps 12 or 13 meter reduction when using the suppressor, but given the size of the maps, even when that reduction is applied, pretty much every single gunfight you engage with using the raw LMG is still going to be in its base damage range. So effectively, it turns into a bit of a free attachment, an attachment which has next to no penalty. And the same is true of a lot of weapons, even the NV4, which has a lower base damage range than the raw LMG at 38 meters. Even when using a suppressor, the vast majority of gunfights that you encounter in this game, given that the game's map size is relatively small and the advanced movement causes a lot of travel distances to narrow gunfights, you're still going to find that the large majority of your gunfights using an NV4 when it's suppressed are comfortably within that 4-shot kill range, or they fall into the 4-shot kill range enough that the penalty you feel when using a suppressor is incredibly minor. Now, if we compare this to Call of Duty Black Ops 3, we see the inverse appearing in that game, which is that the maps by and large are a little bit bigger, so maps such as Hunted or Infection or Stronghold all have considerably greater opportunities for long-range gunfights. And considering that, for instance, the ARs have got a suppressor range reduction of 50%, you really feel that range reduction when you're using a suppressor on an AR in Call of Duty Black Ops 3. A lot of the weapons suddenly feel like they're shooting pellets, and it's incredibly noticed, and it really does feel like a punishment. There's a downside to picking the attachment, even though it's a quite considerable downside. Now, whilst I think that Black Ops 3's range reductions for suppressor use is too severe, I do think that Infinite Warfare's penalties are not severe enough. So if I was going to put forward some suggestions for suppressor range reductions in Infinite Warfare, what would they be? Well, first off, I would like to see a staggered range reduction for suppressor use, similar to what we see in Black Ops 3, whereas the SMGs have the smallest penalty, ARs are in the middle, and the LMGs have the greatest penalty. And the reason I like this system is because I feel it helps define how the weapons are used in relation to how they were designed to be used. So for instance, an SMG is all about aggression, it's about flanking, it's about getting into the enemy spawn and creating flow. They're designed to be used with suppressors because it's about being stealthy. So the suppressor range reduction should be less severe with an SMG. However, if we compare that to an LMG, this is a weapon which is predominantly used for holding down positions with a great deal of firepower. It's not about being stealthy. In fact, if you're effective at using an LMG, then most of the time the enemy should actually know where you are because it's quite apparent that you're laying fire down. They're not designed to be stealthy, so using a suppressor with an LMG should carry a greater penalty. So if I was going to put forward some specific values for Infinite Warfare to use, I would want to see figures in the region of about 20% range reduction when using an SMG, about 40% range reduction when using an AR, and close to 60% range reduction when using an LMG. I feel that given the base weapon ranges of the weapons in Infinite Warfare, and given the size of the maps, that range reductions in the ballpark of those values will not only help to fit the different weapon classes back into how the weapons are actually designed to be used and try and encourage people to play in that style, but those values will cull suppressor use back to a point where people are using the suppressor more appropriately, and we see the level of use perhaps we've seen in prior games. I know suppressor use in Black Ops 3 was too low and it created a very odd feeling game, but the problem you get when you have everyone using a suppressor, as we effectively have in Infinite Warfare, is it can sometimes have a really strange effect on map flow, where if everyone's using it, no one really knows where each other is, and I don't know, the map flow can just sometimes feel really weird when everyone is using a suppressor. So as I say, staggered suppressor ranges of about 20%, 40% and 60% for SMGs, ARs and LMGs respectively in Infinite Warfare, I feel would give a really, really good balance to how people use the suppressor, whether or not they choose to use it, and essentially have an improved impact on suppressor use in the game. So that's going to wrap it up for today's video. I hope that you've enjoyed watching it, and if you have, please don't forget to leave a like rating on the video because it's greatly appreciated. If you'd like to see more content from SitRep Gaming, then make sure to subscribe to the channel and also turn on those notifications so that you never miss another video. All that's left to say is thanks for tuning into SitRep Gaming, and I'll see you in the next video.